Good morning, friends. Hello, hello. How are you this morning? Good morning to you. How is everyone this morning? We'll mug up together. Ooh, camera's a little bit. Yeah, there we go. That's a little better. It's all coming. Life comes at you fast. Sometimes the camera angle's bad. All right. Good morning, friends. Hello. We have a great weekend coming up. Tomorrow we are gathering for our third movie night. So we have movie night tomorrow. We're going to be watching The Princess Bride. You keep using that word. I don't think it means what you think it means. Good. Good. So the most quotable movie ever. Looking forward to that with our church family. Good morning, Donna. Doing good. So good to hear. I'm so glad you're doing well. Good morning, Yvette. Hope you're doing great. Good morning, everyone. So tomorrow night around 5-ish we begin to gather. We'll have some pizza around 5:30-ish, and we'll have our movie will start at 6. So so we start early, we end early. Hope that you'll come on out and enjoy a little Princess Bride with us. So good morning, everyone. And then on Sunday we are gathering for Palm Sunday. It is the beginning of Holy Week. Our Lenten walk has ended, friends. That we will come this Holy Week and begin the journey to the cross and the resurrection. And so Palm Sunday is the triumphal entry of Jesus into Jerusalem. That he comes riding a donkey. And so by virtue of that, we will have a donkey in worship. Yes, that's right. Snickers the donkey, who joined us a few years ago, is back. He's back from vacation, and he'll be a part of our worship service. So we'll have the chance to spend some time with Snickers, and then the kids will have a special lesson with Snickers, and then we'll head downstairs, and he will be there, a part of our Palm Sunday tea. So if you don't know, it is our tradition that we have a high tea on Palm Sunday. We break out the silver, and we have a little chance to celebrate this time of much like the early church did. This is actually what the followers of Jesus were doing. Now they might not have had a high tea. I get it, but after the triumphal entry into Jerusalem, what they were doing is they gathered together to contemplate this Messiah that has come. And so they don't know how things are going to play out this next week, but what they do know is that the days ahead are true and beautiful that are coming ahead, even though they may not know the difficulties of Holy Thursday and its betrayal and the cross and all those things. But at the beginning of the week, we have celebration. And so Snickers will join us downstairs. We will have tea together. Fascinators are encouraged. So if you are a lady and you want to wear a fascinator, if you are a man and want to wear a bowler hat, that is also encouraged. But it is an opportunity to shine the penny a little bit, to get dressed up and to be a part of a fun day. And there's much going on and unfolding in Holy Week. You can find all that on the Facebook page if you're looking. So it is a great time here at First Congregational Church. Hope you'll be a part of some of it. Let's get going this morning. It is the 26th day of March. We are nearing very closely the end of our Lenten walk. This will be our last time of gathering for 11:11 in such a journey. And so I wanted to talk about the beauty of the walk. I want to talk about this. So one of my early in my faith journey, My favorite book has changed in the Bible over time. There's this way in which and I think that's right actually. I think it kind of should. I think there's this way that different seasons lend us to different truths. So when I was much younger, my favorite book of the Bible was actually Ecclesiastes. Yes, the famous line from Ecclesiastes is that all of that stuff about a time that from chapter 3, there's a time for everything. The birds made the song famous. A time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to uproot. Yeah, that's all beautiful, and it is beautiful, and it is right that it is a right wisdom. But what he says after that's kind of a setup, I think, for what he says after that. And that's what I want to talk about today, which is, so, verses 1 through 8, you'll often hear read, but what comes after it is this. It says, what does it gain workers from their labors, from their work? I have seen the burden God has laid on the human race, and he has made everything beautiful in its time. He has also set eternity in the human heart, and yet no one can fathom what God has done from beginning to end. I know that there is nothing better for people than to be happy, to do good while they live, and that each of them may eat and drink and find satisfaction in their work. This is the gift of God. I know that everything God does will endure forever. Nothing can be added to it and nothing taken from it. And God does it so that people will fear him. Now, let's start at the end and work our way back. But that God does this so that people may fear him. This understanding of the word fear is not that we may be terrified, or it's not Mike Myers coming to stab it. It is that there is this reality of awe that is a part of the human capacity and the human life, and that in fact awe is central to our life. It is so important that if we lose our sense of awe, if we lose our sense of wonder about the world, in some ways we lose our very humanity. Some of you might think that's not true. Some of you might be questioning that we can get old enough, we can get jaded enough, there's nothing here that's going to surprise us sort of way and live in this life. And yet, in my time in hospice care, when journeying with people at end of life, there was often this kind of return to, as their capacities and as their control started to wane about the things that they could control, the things they couldn't control, the things that were a part of their life and not a part of their life, and the beginning to reconcile the ends of their lives, that what began to creep back in, even the most jaded souls, was this sense of wonder. Now, it might look a lot like fear in some ways too. That's real, but the sense of awe of how big their life had been, and maybe they hadn't seen it, or how marvelous they had been blessed and they had not been able to taste of the blessings, how incredible different pieces and parts of their life was, and yet they didn't always know it, and that season of the end of life, of beginning to look at and take stock of the life that they had lived, catapults them often back into this sense of what God has done, so that people can fear him, and this meaning people can have awe and wonder in the life that they have lived. And that doorway, that entryway, that wonder, that little piece actually invites us into the central part of what this text is saying, which is saying simply this: that I know there is nothing better for people than to be happy and to do good while they live. We fight this reality. We are born fighting this reality. We want to believe there is some transcendent thing that we can find, that we can encounter a substance that will take us into the ether realms of being. We can encounter a person that will take us into some sort of transcendent state of connubial bliss. We can encounter even a work or a labor or a thing that we can give ourselves over to, which will somehow fulfill us in the greatness of the way. But actually, life is far simpler than that. And in fact, there's a great there's a great old poet, Hugh Prather, who says, we reject this truth that life is better when we're kind, life is better when we're useful, when we're just doing our job, and we stay with and we do the things that are before us that are good and true and beautiful. And we reject this truth because it's insulting, because it's just so simple. It's insulting, and it's not always easy to do. That's the other thing too. But really, it's the sense of like we want to create the complicated living. We want to create this, that we have these in our life because we've built them that way. We have all the social media accounts, we have all the things, we have all the subscribing to all the different streaming services, we have all the different parts of our lives that have managed to find their way into chaos or into our being, all the different things that we have to manage, all of our 401ks and all of our credit default swaps and all these things that we make the world obtuse and crazy and weird and complicated, and yet that's not happiness is none of that. Happiness is this beautiful line. There's nothing better for us to be happy and to do good in the midst of our days. There's an old Zen koan that comes out of the Buddhist tradition, but it's true everything. So what do you do before enlightenment? Kind of in order to get to enlightenment, what should the disciple do? What should we do in order to get to enlightenment? And the master responds, chop wood, carry water. So okay, I got that. All right. Then what should we do after enlightenment? What is the great thing that once we reach enlightenment, once we have become one with all that is, and all that we know, what then should we do? And the master responds, chop wood and carry water. That the living of our days, the life in our days, are best when we love simply, when we give ourselves over to work simply, when we give ourselves over to the labor simply. This rhetorical question that begins our little passage. We're working backwards through it. So, what do workers gain from their work? Because I've seen how heavy it is, says Solomon. I have seen the burden God has put on. Like, it's heavy. What do we gain from all of this working? What do we gain from laboring? He says this: He has made everything beautiful in its time. And that word everything is not ambiguous. It's not like some of the things. That everything is beautiful in its time. That even our shortcomings, even our falling downs, even the places that we have abandoned ourselves or those whom we've loved or our best selves and given ourselves away to our more base and fearful self. Even those places in God's time become beautiful. They become beautiful because they become places that permit us to receive God's grace and love. Because when we've got it all together, when we're, as my friend Tulian Chividin says, like when we're not on the bathroom floor, we're not our best selves. That when we are curled up on the bathroom floor, when everything is broken down and everything is falling down, that is the place that we can receive the God's grace the best. And I'm not saying we need to live in that place. That's not the point. That you haven't heard me say that. But it is from that place, it is in our falling downs that we become most able to receive God's love and God's grace for it. The disciples say this again and again and again. They actually say it in numerous books throughout the New Testament. That this is the takeaway that they all have. This isn't just one guy like Peter. Peter says it this way: count it a blessing when you suffer. Count it a blessing. Because particularly when you suffer for following Christ, because this shows that God's glorious Spirit is with you. This sense of, when bad things happen to me, what am I to do with it? Count it a blessing, because it gives us a way in which to throw ourselves on God's grace and God's love for us, because that hasn't changed. The conditions of our lives will change. The work of our lives will change. The health of our life will change, but God's love for us doesn't. And that when we find ourselves on the bathroom floor, that when James writes his letter to his persecuted little church in Jerusalem, he says, "Consider it all joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of any kind." That they're all drawing back on this truth that King Solomon is writing in Ecclesiastes, that there's nothing better for people to be happy than to do good while they live, and to understand that each condition that we find ourselves, each way that we find ourselves, each state that we find ourselves in it, every one of them actually are doorways. Every door will lead to grace. Every door will lead to joy if we'll keep walking through it. Every hallway every path will lead to the mountaintop if we walk it out, because the one who made us wants us to have all good gifts. The height of that is not in the complicated, and it's not in the bizarre. And as you've been walking out or haven't been walking out, whatever you've decided your Lenten journey, this time, as those of you who are doing the Bible study are falling down and you're reading and getting behind, or not finding the thing that whatever and wherever you find yourself in these journeys of imperfection, know that everything in it is made beautiful in its time. That everything in it, every turn of the diamond, has within it another sparkling brilliance. And just because we can't see it, just because we don't know it yet, just because we haven't encountered it yet, is not abandonment, but it is the coal under the ground in its pressure being transformed to diamonds. Friends, it's my hope as we kind of wrap up our Lenten journey, as we go into Palm Sunday, as we begin the journey into the cross and to the resurrection, that you might know these deep and abiding truths, that the joy that we seek, the love that we seek, the grace that we seek, is not outside of the lives that we're living. It's not on some mountaintop somewhere, but that this simple notion that God has set eternity in our hearts. And we may not understand it, that no one can fathom what God has done from beginning to end. We're not supposed to. But we know that there is nothing better to be happy and to do good while we live. That each may eat and drink and find satisfaction in what they're doing. This is the gift of God. That everything is beautiful in its time. May you, on this day, know God's time in your life. Peace and grace to you all, my friends, and we will pick it up next week. I hope you will come and join us, be a part of our journeying. We can come out for movie night tomorrow, come out for our Palm Sunday celebration and all of our Holy Week celebrations coming up this week. Peace and grace to you all, and we'll pick it up next week with another 11:11.